Hello everybody, it is Sunday the 3rd of September. Now, David Icke was in Belfast last night. He has a new tour based on his new book, The Dream. So I went last night to see it and just really want to talk about how in so many ways I fundamentally disagree with him. Yeah, not so much in how he describes reality. Yeah, I would be in agreement with that. I think it is a level of knowledge that we're getting to now, the level of energy, of vibration, of the spectrum of light, what we can see, what we can hear, and how we are restricted and what our five senses can actually pick up. Now, I don't disagree with that at all. It is the meaning or the purpose of it, where David would perceive this as a trap. The restriction, he would perceive this as a trap. Which is, I would say there's a purpose to it, and that's really what I want to talk about. And it is a purpose that serves. So I want to talk about this idea of, infinite awareness, the narrow band of consciousness, of what we're conscious of. And then I want to talk about the astral plane, that what he talked about, where all the demons hang out, apparently. I want to talk about evolution of consciousness and, in the end, possession. So it's going to be quite a bit. So, first of all, consciousness. There seems to be this idea that consciousness was from the beginning, or individual consciousness just comes into being as all, as infinite awareness. And I would say consciousness that is born, and it is born, it comes into being as a possibility, or it was a possibility and then it comes into being, but only as a small potential, and then it needs to add to itself to grow. And it is, I would say, at no point in infinite awareness, but it has access to infinite awareness at all times, if it knows that. So it can reach out and gather knowledge, even knowledge that is not of this world, further out there, to add to itself, to add to the definition of itself, through connections, so through experiences. So consciousness then grows. But it is not in the beginning as all or infinite. And it's, as I said, it grows like a child grows into an adult through experience. And there's two experiences. There's the experience here in the solid world, and there's in this world we are actually being thrown in, and we are a mix, in a mix now, in a soup of different levels of consciousness, different forms of consciousness, which is what we are interpreting as form. It is really thrown together, although most of the consciousnesses here have got it together that they can form something where everything gives and receives of each other, and create a stable structure in that way. Humanity usually hasn't got that together. But the difference between here, what I can see in the heavens, is that, and that people will tell you, when I go, into one of those heavens, I know them, I feel at home, I feel the love, they are like me. So there we are not thrown into the soup of all different levels of consciousness, intentions, desires, needs, But there we are together with those that are like us. Now, to me, evolution of consciousness, growing of consciousness happens here in a big way, because you have to find your way through, you're being exposed to all different levels and different things. Whereas there, it's all the same. Everybody feels the same, everybody thinks the same, we're all together, we love each other because we are the same. And then evolution does not take place in a big way, because there's nothing to trigger it. And then if you have a heaven like the one in the Bible, the God of the Bible there, if any consciousness should suddenly come up with a different thought or question something, or just kick them out, and then evolution definitely doesn't happen. So, yeah, this is a way through tribulation that you do expand by being exposed to things other than yourself. Anyway, so then he says, so this narrow band of consciousness, yeah? Right, okay. And saying this is an illusion, that so gets my back up. This is not real. This is an illusion. It's just in your head. You are reading energy. So, if you're reading energy, then there is something outside of you, isn't there? You cannot say you're reading energy out there and then say there's nothing outside of you. It's all in your head. There's a complete contradiction. Anyway. But okay, if everything is, let's say we know it now, or beginning to know it on the level of energy, I wouldn't say that's probably not even the highest level either, but it's one step up from solid. Right, so we are reading energy. And what we do, and especially when we teach our children, and I have my 2-year-old granddaughter living with me at the moment, and we've just been through the process of programming, so to speak. And here is, we're teaching them numbers, shapes, colors, and we're putting labels on forms. Like, that is a house, that is a car, that is a dog, that's a chicken, and so on and so forth. Yeah? So we have a language that is agreed upon, so we can actually talk to one another. But let's say shape, colors, numbers, which is the first thing we indoctrinate them into. And it's nothing wrong with that. It forms a basis for communication, yeah? But if you put a blue triangle on the table, yeah? So you have something there. There is actually something there that is made out of energy, yeah? And your 5 senses pick up that energy. That is to say, you sense something. Your eyes sense something. Well, in that case, it's mostly your eyes, I would think. You can't hear the triangle or whatever, but yeah, you sense something. And then I say to Lily, this is one quantity, blue, the color, triangle, yeah, the shape, which is what I sense to be there. Now Lily is sensing something there, and she's now coming to agreement with the label. Yeah, the shape is a triangle, the color is blue, and there's only one. And then the next time she gets the sensation of the color blue, that's when they start running around saying, that's blue, yeah, or that's that shape, and start repeating the labels. Now the question I had, especially this morning as well, is we both sense the same thing, and there's definitely something there outside of us that we're sensing, yeah? And we've come into agreement that we call it a certain thing so we can communicate with each other. But there is a picture created in our head, and that is what is in your head. It is the picture that it creates. That is you creating pretty much your own reality. You're painting a picture. It's a creative process, it says in your head. Now I wonder, even though we are in agreement about the labels, is the picture in Lily's head the same as mine? Yeah? And how would you convey the knowledge of your truth? That is your picture, your creative picture that you've painted in your head. How would you convey that to somebody else when all you have got are the agreed labels? Unless you start talking in a label that you've just made up. But then the other wouldn't know what you're talking about, because that's a new word, and they have nothing to attach it to. Now I wonder, because in the in the esoteric teachings, they obviously did that. Yeah, and they created labels for sensations, feelings, emotions, thoughts that come together and then create a picture in the head, a painting. So they created the pictures. Obviously you have the winged goat sitting there, horned winged goat. They created labels like Satan. But I wonder if at that stage they had a way of actually conveying to one another the actual picture that was in their head. So have knowledge of one another, meaning actually knowing the painting and not just speaking to one another through the labels. And in the Bible there are stories that would suggest that is what they were doing, where they could give the knowledge of the picture to one another. And that would be knowing each other on a much higher level. So there is something I think we should think about. Now, we are on this narrow band of light that we can perceive. That's the next thing. I think creation, the way it is in this world, and out there as well, is really on a need-to-know basis, pretty much. Yeah? So you see and you put in what you need to know to function at that moment. You need to know the doors, otherwise you run into it. You need to see the bus coming when you're crossing the road. It's really helpful if you see it coming, you know. But if you saw other things as a physical reality, that is to say, you're sensing it and you're creating the picture in your head and then you see it. So like David is talking about the Wi-Fi field, which is obviously all around us, carrying information. I mean, that's not only the, I think that is not only the artificial Wi-Fi created by machines, but it is our own. We have our own Wi-Fi with which we connect to each other. Again, on that Wi-Fi, I think is where we could actually convey the picture in our heads to each other and gain true knowledge of each other. But that's another thing. How do you work that? That's where we should go. How do we work our own Wi-Fi? Yeah? Anyway, so if you were to see the artificial Wi-Fi and our own Wi-Fi, and you all saw that as a shape in your head outside of yourself. Yeah, as I said, crossing the road, it's really handy to see the bus. And it's hard enough at times to focus and not to be distracted by what we actually see. Do you want to load all of that onto it as well? So you have this old spaghetti of Wi-Fi that you're seeing, and then, well, good luck with seeing the bus. Yeah. So, yeah, you see what you need to see. Now, I think at the moment we need to see an awful lot more than, there is the actual need for us to see more than we are seeing, but I come to that later. I think there is a call at the moment for an evolutionary step, for an expansion, that we see more than we do, but I come to that later. But so this narrow band actually serves a purpose. This restriction of what we can see actually serves a purpose. It creates something that we can function in, that we can interact with each other in. You know, it creates a space in which we can exist. I mean, what do you do without space, time? Or what do you do if everything happens at once? If it's not separated by those things? Again, as I said, the spaghetti, it would be there, not helpful at all. Autism is actually a state where, especially with sound, where everything happens at once. Yeah? Where they cannot elevate. And this is, again, is what we do. We elevate that which is important, which we need to know, out of all. So they cannot elevate, like say, the sound of a conversation, which they should be focused on. They cannot elevate that out of the background sound of everything else. And then they suffer information overload, which is what would pretty much happen to us if we did not separate and, elevate that which we actually need to know. So no, there is something side of you that's not an illusion. Yes, the picture that it creates, it's in your head. And that picture may well be completely subjective. Even if we talk to each other and think we talk about the same thing, we're talking in agreed labels. That does not mean the picture in our head is the same. Can we share our real truth with each other? That would be interesting. Yeah, if we could do that. And yeah, the restriction of what we can see serves a purpose. I don't think we could function very well in any other way. And even if you go to the next level, which is then we're coming now to the astral plane, you're still restricted in what you know. Only you know all of those that are like you, so you can all love each other because you're the same. But it's still a restriction. So, right, okay. So David says, that is the realm of demons. Now I've heard, and I do truly believe, that the heavens are not all bad. There are good guys out there as well. And I believe that. But at the moment it would seem, that realm is demon possessed. Because there are those here that are demon possessed, and they are creating a world that seems to be under the complete rulership of that thought. And then, after a while, it would appear to you like that's all there is. Because that's all you're experiencing. Yeah? I don't think that's true. I mean, there are good guys in this world. There are truly good guys in this world. There'll be truly good heavens up there. They're just finding it very hard to get through at the moment. Because the others have got the upper hand, so to speak. So, and here is, let's talk about evolution first, and especially the evolution of, and then let me talk about this like the God in the Bible, the one that wants to have dominion over everything and rule over everything. As I said, in this world, and in this world, evolution is actually driven by a need. There is a change that needs you to adjust yourself in order to, again, function in the new environment, in the new situation. And out of that grows new knowledge of yourself, of others, which then expands consciousness. But if there is no need for change, evolution usually does not happen. Which is why we were unconscious for so long, because we were fine. And again, David says, and I fully agree with him, that things will get extremely bad, and then the last ones will wake up because they need to. They can't avoid it anymore. I mean, if you want to live, you will have to do something about what's going on here. You have to stand up, you have to speak up against it, you have to do something to stop it. So again, it does create a need in us. But here's the thing. I would say if you say they are energy vampires, yeah? Okay, and you say they are feeding off negative energy, yeah? And they are gathering information about us to see how we function, mainly to see how best they can get us into that energy that they feed off. And they keep doing that. And apparently it's working a treat for them, so why should they change? Yeah, there's no evolutionary pressure for them to change. It's working. Yeah? Now if you say they are consciousness and then they should have a conscience, but again, reason can reason, well, this is working for me, therefore it is good. I'm doing it, I can do it, it's working for me, therefore I should do it. There's a trail of thought where you can come into agreement with what you are. And I would say they are in full agreement with what they are within themselves. And in fact, as I said in the Bible, if anybody should have any other thoughts, you just kick them out. So the oneness and the agreement will, be there forever. Great stuff. But at the moment, it does create an evolutionary need for us. We need to expand awareness. Yeah? And then what are we expanding into? What is it we actually need to know? Again, we know reality according to what we need to know. And then there's, it's not going out into all possibilities. No, there's something we need to know right now. There's a need. So what is it we need to know? And I would say we need to know them. They are not, for most of us, their energy is not in this world, as if we don't read it strongly enough for it to create a form, again, in our head, to paint a picture in our head that we can then perceive as reality. Although the being is there, the energy is there, yeah? One way or another, it's there, there's something there. But and for most part, what we perceive as the people, the human beings that are possessed, yes, by that sort, by those beings, and they're doing their works here. Would it be helpful to actually, let's say, bring the heavens to earth? To actually see what is going on? Would that be helpful for us? Would that serve? If that were to happen, I would say for most that would be enough, as the book of Revelation says, to give you a heart attack. But for the survival of the entire species and of this world, is that expansion of awareness, of consciousness, the knowing of those energies as beings, is that actually necessary? Do we need to expand to that level of knowledge? And that is really expanding into the astral plane. Yeah? I really don't think it's any good going any further. Because the reason why we know the astral plane is because there's something there that is like us. Again, consciousness knows from the basis of itself and expanding outward. So that we know them because there's something there that is like us. Maybe even came from here at some stage and detached itself from this reality. You don't know. But you will really need to know the astral plane in order to do the next step. There's more out there, but as we are right now, we cannot know that. And you go out there, then you come to a stage where you do not know, because it is not you. And you come to the point when nothing knows and nothing is being known. You can no longer observe because you don't have the foundational knowledge of what is out there to observe. And then you come to the stage where I'm questioning whether knowing nothing is actually the highest state of enlightenment. I really question that. But I mean, I really think we should expand. We need to see them. We need to see what is going on. And I think once we see them, we will realize they are like us in some shape or form. And we will know again what it is we're dealing with, because it's not that different from here. So yeah, I think that is an evolutionary step that we have to take now. And if we reject them out of knowing, disconnect from them, which means that would then stop the flow of energy to them, which should force them into an evolutionary step, which is, I would say, long overdue. So yeah, to me, it would create evolution of consciousness here and in heaven, so to speak, all around. It would just shift the whole thing on to a new reality, because it is the consciousnesses that create the reality. So it would create a new reality all around, and I think we need it. But I also think that more and more people will need to be prepared, need to think about it in these terms, to prepare themselves for something like that happening. Otherwise, we have people dropping dead all over the place in shock. So, last thing I want to talk about is possession. David and I do agree they are possessed. And I think David sees the splinter in his brother's eye, not quite the beam in his own. Now let's talk about possession. I mean, it's in the word. The meaning is contained in the word. It's something has taken possession of you. It now owns you. Yeah? That's what's happening. So, they are being owned by, they are completely controlled by that. Describe it as a heaven. And I would say mainly of that Lord God, by this world to have dominion over everything. They're possessed by that. And it's coming from somewhere else into them, and then they're being possessed, and they're doing according to it in this world. But if David says, and it's funny because I was going to put that, there should have been a question, and there was a question and answer session, and I was trying to put that point into a question and put it in the bucket, but I was trying to write it down, and he was still talking, and I really couldn't get it together, and by the time, I never did put anything into the bucket, and by the time the session came along, I was sat there and saying, oh yeah, that was the question I should have asked. Well, maybe it wasn't the time or the place, I don't know. But if he said right at the beginning, when he had this experience in Peru, and it is the same for me when I had my experience here on my stairs, that something contacted us. And then he said, they said, the medium said, they said that sometimes he will be given knowledge and sometimes he will find knowledge. Now, then he is receiving knowledge that would get him onto a certain path. Therefore, he's being led by a trail of breadcrumbs, so to speak, which is knowledge, onto a certain outcome. And I'm no different. I'm the same. Yeah? And David says, well, I don't know where it's leading me. Heck yeah. And again, yeah, full agreement, not quite sure. I have a desire. I have an intention where I want to go. Yeah? And then is my intention greater than yours? Or will I be overcome by... That's why I've been fighting this bloody thing tooth and nail. Yeah? To not let it overcome me. Because I should have some say in it. And then that's a question I wanted to ask him. Are you actually in some way in control of this? Yeah? Or are you being possessed? Has something taken ownership of you? Yeah, I'm trying very hard not to let that take complete and utter ownership of me, because I am myself. I should have self-determination. I have a right to be me. Yeah? Cooperation, yes. Cooperation, fine. But not my will shall be done. And that's actually the question I wanted to ask him, how he felt, what his own position was in that, what was his role in this, and to what extent does he feel he is actually in control of what's happening. It would be interesting to know. Which really gets me to the last thing I want to say, and that is in my own position in this. And as I said, if this thing does take complete ownership, if it imposes its will, and if it imposes its values of good and bad, yeah, then you are a slave. Then I am is no longer there. You are a complete slave. Again, the point I don't want to get to. Yeah? I want to grow. I want to be given. I want to grow. But grow according to myself. I am the foundation from which it grows. That is self-determination. So yeah, I don't want it to take me. I don't want to be a slave. Receiving, yes, and being a servant to that from which you receive. That is to say, you give and receive to one another. Yes, absolutely. I think that's how it should be. Yeah, they can, whatever they're speaking to me, they can incorporate out of my knowledge what will serve them, and I should incorporate from their knowledge what serves me, and that would be the correct way of cooperation. Right, but a servant, and here's the thing. First of all, a servant gives its services out of its own free will, whereas this is, at times, I don't want to do this. And it's so strong that I end up sitting here again, talking, sitting here for hours. Half my day is gone. And afterwards I say, shit, tons I should have been doing here, and I spend all my time here. And the other thing is, a servant gets paid. There should be some reward for the servant himself. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. Yeah, you give off your energy, and you should get something back. And right now, I see this taking away my energy. I see no returns in a big way in this world for me. But yeah, I think it should manifest in this world. I mean, of course, consciousness grows fine, but something should trickle down into this world. Because to keep the experience going here and there, So, I mean, as I know the man said, man does not live by bread alone, but by the Spirit. Folks, I can assure you, man does not live by the spirit alone either. He does need bread. So, and this is why I want to stop this now for a while, and I will actually try very hard to put my foot down. You know what? No. I just made a video, the power of no. Let's see if it actually works. No, I'm not your lackey. Yeah? I mean, I can see the need for another perspective of what is happening at the moment to come into this world. Yeah, and I find this perspective, what I'm talking about. I mean, I wouldn't say it if I didn't believe in it, or I believe it to be right. But that is the need of many. Yeah? What about me? I said I keep asking questions. Yeah? Now this is a question that keeps coming up and it keeps being suppressed because of the need of many. Now I'm being servant. And I will say no now, and I'm going to ask that question. What about me? What do I get out of this? Yeah? And and I'm going to stick with that for a while, just to see where it takes me. I mean, I'm not saying I'm not coming back here. I never say never. It never worked. So no, that's not going to be the case. But I will take a short break from this and just to ask that one question: what about me? See what the answer is. Anyway, I leave it at that for today. Again, that was probably a lot. If you've just come to my channel and you're not used to the way I am thinking, that was probably an awful lot. But, yeah, try to let, as I said, it's just one other perspective, another way of putting meaning to what is happening. It's a different possibility. And see what you think about it. Again, you should evaluate that according to yourself. What do you think about that? Anyway, I leave it at that for today, and I'll talk to you sometime in the probably near future, but as I said, short break is absolutely needed. So see you then. Bye.